The Ravens walked away with a blowout win, but the real story wasn't the scoreboard. What really stood out was what happened to Derrick Henry. He completely disappeared. And now, after plenty of speculation, John Harbaugh finally broke his silence and explained exactly what the Browns did to shut down one of the most feared runners in the NFL. And the answer isn't your usual coach speak. Harbaugh revealed the details of a defensive strategy that felt like a throwback to old-school football, an aggressive style that caught both Henry and Lamar Jackson off guard. So how exactly did Cleveland manage to shut down the very heart of Baltimore's offense? That's where things get really interesting. After the win, John Harbaugh didn't sugarcoat what happened. He came right out and admitted the Browns had a smart, well-executed plan to stop Baltimore's run game. In his presser, he explained how Cleveland stacked a line of scrimmage, crowding it with defenders and reacting instantly to the first sign of a run. In his words, it was like every defender was ready to shoot into a gap the second play began. Harbaugh even compared it to something he'd seen years ago while working under Jim Johnson in Philadelphia. He called it blitzing the run. It's not a traditional blitz on the quarterback, but rather an all-out reaction to the run itself. The moment the defense saw a run key, they exploded through the gaps with aggression, closing lanes before Henry or Lamar could even get moving. Now, that approach comes with risks. If the offense manages to slip through the first wave, the play can go for big yardage. But against Cleveland, that didn't happen. Their execution was flawless, always a step ahead, always cutting off angles, suffocating Baltimore's ground game before it had a chance. And what's striking is Harbaugh didn't frame it as an excuse. He gave credit. He admitted Cleveland was smart in picking its battle. They weren't going to let Henry or Lamar run. And by doing that, they took away one of the most powerful weapons in Baltimore's arsenal, which leads straight into the next point, how this game plan hit Derrick Henry the hardest. Harbaugh broke it down clearly. Cleveland's idea was simple but executed perfectly. Load the line and give Henry nowhere to go. The result? One of his worst outings since joining the Ravens. Just 24 yards on 11 carries. For a back who's built his reputation on dragging entire defenses, that performance showed just how effective the Browns' approach really was. They knew if they cut the engine of Baltimore's rushing attack, the entire offense would have to change gears. What stood out was Harbaugh refusing to cover for Henry. Instead, he doubled down on how aggressive Cleveland's defense was. He pointed back to that blitz-the-run style, explaining how it stripped Henry of what makes him so dangerous. Normally, he builds power with momentum. But this time, defenders were already waiting in the very spot he needed to hit, killing the run before it had a chance. And that made adjustments nearly impossible mid-game. When a defense commits that many bodies to the line, pounding the ball inside is just asking for losses. That's exactly what happened. Henry kept running into a wall of brown jerseys. No daylight, no openings, no rhythm. It was a masterclass in how to neutralize a power back of his caliber. With Henry stuck in neutral, the rest of the ground game froze as well. That constant pressure forced Baltimore to turn to the air, leaning on Lamar's arm. But even the quarterback wasn't immune to Cleveland's game plan. From Harbaugh's perspective, the Browns made it clear they weren't afraid of opening up space against the pass. Their only priority was making sure Baltimore couldn't run, and that included Lamar Jackson. A quarterback who usually thrives by turning broken plays into highlight runs was held to just 13 rushing yards. For someone with his explosiveness, that number says everything about Schwartz's defensive strategy. Harbaugh described how the defenders flew downhill the second the ball was snapped. That quick reaction shut down Lamar's escape lanes before they even existed. It felt like every possible running lane was sealed before he could take off, leaving him no time to create with his legs. It stripped Baltimore of its unpredictability, a trait that usually leaves defenses scrambling. But Lamar adjusted. He realized the only way forward was through the air, and he delivered. For touchdown passes, 0 turnovers. Harbaugh made it clear. This wasn't about a balanced offense. It was about the quarterback exploiting what Cleveland was willing to give. And still, the Browns clearly won the ground battle. That's exactly what Harbaugh calls smart football, deciding what you'll live with and what you'll absolutely shut down. Cleveland chose to sell out against the run. And even though it didn't win them the game, It sent a message to the rest of the league about how to deal with Baltimore.
And if you, just like me, are passionate about the world of football and want to learn more about the Ravens' legacy, don't leave this video without sharing it with that friend who is also a Baltimore Ravens fan and will love this content. See those video suggestions on your screen? The first one was handpicked just for you, and the other is a recommendation from YouTube itself.
What Harbaugh emphasized was that this style isn't easy to pull off. Blitzing the run takes discipline, lightning-fast reads, and a ton of courage. One wrong step, and you're giving up a big play. But Cleveland nailed it. That level of execution spoke volumes about how prepared Jim Schwartz had his defense. Harbaugh pointed out how the Browns were consistently packed near the line, daring Baltimore to run. That positioning erased the speed advantage Henry and Lamar usually bring. Instead of waiting for play to unfold, defenders were crashing gaps before Baltimore's offensive line could even create them. It was both a physical and mental win over Baltimore's biggest strength. By giving the Browns that credit, Harbaugh was also sending a message to his own team. They need answers for this kind of attack. Relying solely on Lamar's passing every week won't cut it. The Ravens' identity is running the ball, and if defenses start copying what Cleveland did, things could get messy. It was almost like a warning wrapped in praise. And that leads to the other side of the story. If the run game was shut down, then defense and special teams had to pick up the slack. And they did. In the end, even with the run game erased, Baltimore still blew Cleveland out. And that only happened because the defense and special teams carried the load. Harbaugh's comments made it clear. The win didn't come from the ground attack. It came from big-time plays elsewhere. Two huge defensive moments flipped the game. Nate Wiggins' interception returned to the Browns' 5-yard line, and Roquan Smith taking a fumble 64 yards straight to the house. On top of that, Jake Hummel blocked a punt in the second quarter, setting up Baltimore's first touchdown. On a day when the rushing attack was nowhere to be found, those units didn't just hold the line. They created points. That balance is what kept the Ravens in full control despite losing their signature weapon. Harbaugh showed respect by admitting Cleveland won the battle in the trenches. But he also reminded everyone that when you have a defense this aggressive, playmakers across the board, and a quarterback who can win with his arm, you can find other ways to finish games. That's exactly what Baltimore proved. Now the real question is what comes next. Facing a high-powered Lions offense on Monday night, the Ravens know they can't rely only on defense and Lamar's arm. Adjustments have to come fast, because teams around the league will be watching and trying to copy Cleveland's blueprint. At the end of the day, Harbaugh's words made two things clear. First, that the Browns put together a brilliant game plan to shut down Henry and Lamar on the ground. And second, that even when their run game completely vanished, the Ravens showed enough resilience in other areas to still dominate. It was a win, no doubt, but also a warning sign that they can't afford to ignore. So here's the big question. Will other teams now copy this exact strategy to slow down Derrick Henry and limit Lamar Jackson? And if so, what adjustments can Baltimore make to avoid becoming predictable when defenses sell out to stop the run? Those answers could define the course of the season. One thing's for sure, Harbaugh didn't dodge the issue. He gave credit where it was due and left no doubt that fixes are needed. That honesty, paired with the intensity of the matchup, only raises the anticipation for how the Ravens will respond in their next big test. This story is just getting started.
All right, we're already past the halfway point of this video, but before we continue, I noticed you haven't left a like yet. It's really important because it helps YouTube keep showing you my content so I can keep bringing you the best news about the Baltimore Ravens. So go ahead and hit that like button. It's free and it really helps. Thanks. Now let's get back to it.